go. How's it going, Saber Legion? Let me just adjust that real quick. I am your host for this evening, David Loudenslager. I am the media lead for Saber Legion, if you don't know who I am. And I'm going to be bringing you another episode of Road to CombatCon to get everybody ready for TSL 6, whether you're attending as a fighter, a spectator, a staff member, or you're just going to be watching the streams at home and you want some extra inside information. So today we're going to be talking about our newest tournament edition to the annual tournament, the Unity rule set, which we'll be having on Sunday morning with 16 fighters. And to help me kind of explain the rule set, because it is our continuous fighting rule set, the rules are slightly different. I'm going to be bringing on the creator of the Unity rule set, Alain Bloch. And let's see if we got him right here. Alain.
Hello there.
How are we doing? General Kenobi. All right.
Feeling bold.
So we are going to be talking about the Unity rule set. And I'm just going to let people sort of file in. I want to make sure that everything's live here. I think it is, but I'm just going to double check real quick while people are filing in. So maybe, Alain, could you give us a overview kind of where kind of the culmination, without going too in depth, you know, how did the Unity rule set come about for you?
Well, if I can recall, we actually talked about this a couple years ago. Didn't we? It's been that long when we first started on this adventure.
Yeah.
So basically, I wanted to come up with a rule set that I felt was perhaps more exciting for me, maybe a bit more challenging, and I think was more, I felt, evocative of what lightsaber fighting should kind of look like. Not to dismiss any other rules out there. This is just my personal taste. Coming from a choreography background, I wanted something that was a little bit more theatrical. And looking at the types of rule sets that existed at the time, I think you, David, actually introduced me to the continuous fighting rule set that it was in your sets introduced at Swordfish, the longsword tournament there.
Yeah, so I had seen that they had done an experimental continuous fighting rule set for longsword at Swordfish,
Right.
which was the I think they're still running, but the largest European tournament. And I had also experienced a different continuous fighting rule set at Sword Squatch. I think that was 2018. So like September 2018, they had a continuous fighting rule set. And I thought that, you know, it would be something that would be, definitely a challenge. I know we talked about it, and I remember, I think the big culmination was like, you gave me a call over Christmas break. It was like, you know, December 26th or 27th, and I was on the East Coast, and I think like you called me, and it was like probably close to midnight my time. You know, on the East Coast with my family, so everybody else is asleep. And then I think we talked for like 2-3 hours, just talking about like what we would do, what would we change, what would work, you know, just kind of hammering out the what we have to have, what we don't need, or what we want to avoid, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember we wanted to do something that was different. That we felt that would be a good addition to TSL, and not taking away from what TSL provides already. I think what we were sort of kind of, you know, in our own minds seeing is like there's different, like, you know, types of people that want to be in TSL, and TSL being its motto, unified, or, you know, united through sabers. That we should, you know, perhaps have different rule sets that appeal to different types of people. Recently, you know, for me during that time, I was doing a lot of martial arts training, particularly in the sword, in longsword, and hand and a half. So I wanted to see if I could apply more of what I was learning from them and the rule sets that they had too. And one of the things that they also kind of did was a type of rule set where, and I think you see this in longsword too, and different types of fencing tournaments, is that they look for really, cuts that they would consider, martial, martial quality, like, hey, if this actually hit the person, then we would do some damage, or anything that happened to the person. So I also, with continuous fighting, I want to see, like, can we bring in that aspect as well? Because when fighting that way, when seeing other people fight too, I thought it looked more like what you would see in the movies. And I think with the continuous fighting and sort of not breaking up the rhythm of the fight, it also just made it more interesting, exciting to watch. Now, there were a lot of challenges to that, especially for the judging. But I think through the since it's this first inception, we've sort of worked it out, and we prototyped it, and we've tested it out. We've already had several matches, and a lot of people liked it, and we even had a huge tournament over at Davin, where we brought in a lot of people.
Hang on one sec, Alan. I actually am getting word that there is a double audio thing happening. So let me just try to fiddle here for a second.
Okay.
And see if I can.
It's not just me.
Well, it may not just be you, but it's only on your audio. So I'm just wondering what my option is.
I could try to just go to my.
No. It's actually 100% how I have it wired, and I have to fix it, and I have to figure out what the solution is going to be. Okay. 1 second, and then I will be all set. All right. Can you hear me, Alan? Can you hear me at all?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I had to make sure I could hear it on the headphones. I just changed them. So let me know. That's Greg was.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo.
Messaging me. Okay, good. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, I know why. I didn't set up mix minus as the setting I was looking for, and I didn't do it. So that's my fault, people. Trying to half the point of me doing some of these live streams, other than just giving information, is to work out some of these technical problems so we don't have them on the live stream. So that's a good thing to know, that I need to turn on the mix minus filter on the thing. So everything looks good here. So
failure is the greatest teacher.
Yeah, we had the all that led to the Saber Masters tournament in May. Well, we had our Dark Watch match, which was five rounds. And we did that, and then that was kind of the proof of concept, and that led to the tournament where we could actually test it and feel it out and everything. And how many? I forget. I know we had 3 pools. I think was it about 12 or 14 fighters, something like that.
There was a number. Yeah. Geez, I don't remember off the top of my head. It was definitely over a dozen.
Okay. Yeah, I know it was 3 pools. I think it was 14 or 15, something like that. I probably have that information somewhere. But yeah, so
it was a hot day in California.
It was 85 degrees that day.
And we were
had
indoors.
To keep the doors shut with lighting and
no AC
and no air conditioning. And it's a warehouse, so it pretty much baked like an oven. So it was very hot that day. So anyway, so that kind of led to that was the first big test. We found some issues, and we worked towards solutions over time. You did a couple more. you did a couple more Unity fights. I fought you once. You fought Daniel Lane, and you fought Alexis from Florida, and you fought Charlie in Minnesota. And that was kind of like us continuing to evolve the concept. We made some modifications to how the judging took place, to avoid some like discrepancies between the different judges. So one judge wouldn't call, have like a score of 10-1, and the other judge would score 9-2 or something like that for the other way. So, so we kind of adjusted that. And then when we did the rule set that was included in the current version of the rules, you kind of rewrote the whole thing. We basically started almost from scratch as far as like how it was written out.
Yeah, just the way that we presented the rules. There was I think in the first draft maybe a little bit more to specificity to the things that was, but there was a reason for that. It was we were inspired by the types of rules that other HEMA tournaments had, and they would talk about like the chambering and the angle and those sorts of things. And so trying to kind of keep with conventions, we kind of went that route. But I think for TSL and a lot of members, that it's not necessarily maybe a good thing to have like that, because not everyone comes from that kind of background and haven't been really exposed to those sorts of things, so they have really no sort of context for it. So we rewrote it so that it was a bit more easier to read. I think that but the core concepts were still there. The continuous fighting, the nice, more broad strokes and swings. The other thing that I neglected to mention was also trying to eliminate doubles and trying to go for engagements that were really clean, and to really make that a huge emphasis within the fight. So points won't be awarded to, even if you get there first, if there's an afterblow, it's still sort of negated. So it does change how people fight, and that you have to be as equally aware and keeping your defense up as you are on the offense.
Yeah, I mean that was a big element. I know. I mean, I think we had that even in because like before all this, I had written a very different continuous fighting rule set, and I think even that was the same kind of thing. We were eliminating, if it was a double, nothing happened, and that included afterblow kind of thing. So, and then we kind of modified that after the Saber Masters to where the director, who previously was more just worried about establishing breaks and making sure everything's safe and calling the fight, beginning and the end of the fight, started actually calling those out. So it took kind of some stress off the line judges that they don't have to they should still be doing that and identifying. And if they think something's a double, even though the director doesn't call it, they can do that and negate it.
Yeah.
But it allows them to call it out, and then both judges know, okay, I can disregard that exchange. And that way it also helps normalize the scores a little bit. So we again help with that potential discrepancy because of just angles, that can change everything. So that was something that really seemed to help, whereas in the Saber Masters tournament, we had, fights that were like, when you added it up, it was probably like 15-7. But then like, if you look at it, the one guy got this many more, and this person might have, their judge scored them higher, but not quite as high. But then
we were trying to do averages.
Yeah, and then as soon as and we still do sort of. But now that we see it, most of the fights that we had, I think, were no higher than 3 or 4 points exchanged, scored on either side at most. I mean, it's only about a 2-minute fight, so there's not a whole lot. Like the amount of clean exchanges that's probably about right. You're going to get about maybe 6 to 7 exchanges that are going to be clean either way. So
exactly. That was the real surprising thing about it. I mean, one thing that I think people can expect when they go into this tournament is that they're definitely going to get their fight time in. That they're going to feel that at the end of even just the pools that, wow, they're
Well,
going to put in.
single elimination, so it's only,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, we're doing single elimination. But
Yes.
yeah, well, even a single elimination, it's going to be, you're going to walk away and you're going to feel like, wow, I just did something. Definitely, it's a very, very aerobic. I think that was the one thing that all the competitors at the Saber Masters tournament walked away with, is like, wow, that was a really great workout.
So just slight sidebar, since there was a chat came in, there was a question about will there be fundraiser shirts like last year? We did have TSL6 shirts, but that order closed last month because we had to get the short order in before TSL6. Will there be other fundraiser shirts that are Saber Legion related? Probably this year. Yes, most likely. And we're going to work that out after TSL6. There's probably that will probably happen. I know we're working on hats that are Saber Legion hats, just not specifically TSL6. So stay tuned for more merch. We will be working on that.
And I don't know of any Unity tournament related merch either.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
maybe one day.
Unless you want to make a patch for it, but it's I think we're under 30 days, so we don't have time to order something. So let's do this. Let's go through kind of, I'm just going to call out certain parts of the rule set and kind of, we can kind of expand on it from there, just so there's some more explanation and a little, just adding a little more so if people don't understand. So I'll just read off the description. It says the goal is to allow members from every background to be able to compete together in a safe, fun, and exciting way. Unity is yet another way we fulfill that mission. Unity has also been referred to as continuous fighting. Members should be aware of the differences and requirements before attempting to participate. As we talk about the variation, the next part about the variance and structural differences, we talk about how this is an alternative rule set. It is not intended as a replacement,
Right.
but we also follow the same codes of conduct and other rules that take place and how a fighter should conduct themselves, especially in relation to like illegal targets and things like that. So bout time rules are going to vary, and that is based on the next section, which is talking about battle music. Now, do you want to talk about why battle music is such an important part of Unity? It's not a required part, but why it's such an important part.
It's just so cool. It's great. So one of the things that, going back to the desire to make this more theatrical, is that instead of having a timer calling out when the fight begins and the fight ends, why not just have a piece of music that when the music starts, people fight, and then when the music stops, people stop fighting. And that piece of music can be anywhere from 90 seconds to 2 minutes long. Of course, it can be stopped at any time if there is a reason for it, like someone's saber breaking and they need to halt the thing. It does get a little dicey when you have multiple matches going on at the same time. Typically, at the Saber Masters tournaments, we would start both matches at the same time and end at the same time. So, we'll see how it goes with the single elim, but expect to, if we are going to be doing the combat music at TSL 6, which I'm not sure if we are.
So,
but
we're going to make sure that happens.
Okay, cool.
I have it set up. We have a speaker set up. Aaron Riley is providing us with some PA speakers that we can utilize for it. And that's also for other purposes of running the tournament and being able to do announcements. And so we're amplified when we do the prizes. But
awesome. Well, that's going to be super exciting. So we got a bunch of royalty-free music that's very John Williams inspired, and people can expect to be fighting to some epic orchestral piece in the background, just as if they were on Mustafar. Hey, Tony. Congratulations, Tony, again on your win. And let's see if you can keep the streak up at TSL, eh?
He's going to be the Vegas champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got to defend the 50 plus.
That's right.
He is a returning champion, so it's not just trying to get the other divisions. It's also the 50 plus, and Tony will be
You're also
will be one
doing
of the competitors, in
yeah
Unity.
at the Unity. Yeah, very excited for him to be a part of that. He's a very athletic guy.
Trying to do this. So what I'm trying to set up right now is I have one clip from the Saber Masters, but I wanted to get and I'm trying to get it right now. I want to get a clip from when we fought in February, because we kind of when we one thing I should mention about that fight is, and when the first Unity fight was, we had NeoPixel sabers that we wired in a mic into a mic pack. So literally, we could not take our hand off our right hand off the saber, for fear of pulling the whole thing out. But we were able to mic that into a speaker system with the music, so you're hearing all the NeoPixel clashes and all the whooshing that that happens. So just to kind of give an idea, to kind of reinforce that importance of like battle music. And and Tony saying my hands full at TSL 6, you guys are hard to beat. So
that's the aesthetic.
Well, so I know I beat Tony in the exotic, third place.
That's right.
Did you beat him in No, you beat me in semis. You
Yeah.
didn't fight him. So
yeah.
Did you fight him at all, TSL 5?
I don't remember. It's such a blur. Okay. I got second though in the exotics.
Yeah.
I remember I beat you and Charlie. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, cool. I got that. So here and
Seth took it.
I'm gonna try to load up this clip, and we're gonna see if it works. And if it works, great.
Yeah, one of the things that we were also trying to prove is like, hey, NeoPixel blades can really take a beating, and one shouldn't be afraid to fight with them. They actually hit a little bit harder because there's more, LEDs and stuff inside the blade itself.
Yeah, let me see here. I do have it up. So
that's right, Tony. Only clean points are allowed. How many judges for Unity? I can't recall at the top of my head what we arrived to, but
I don't know if we have a set amount. Let me double check it, but I'm pretty sure we've just
3.
I mean, I think we want 3 is the.
So what's cool about
we don't specify the number,
right.
But in reality, I think we're locked down on 3, but you must have at least 2. So Melody says 2. So there you
Great.
go.
Awesome.
So that was the question from Tony, if anyone missed that.
Yeah.
And then Melody's response. So we are going with 2, which is what we've used for actually a lot of them. So that is what's going to happen there. So
cool. And I think 2 is perfect. What I think people will find about Unity is that because there's only clean cuts allowed, because it's more engaging, I think for people watching, that it just like in a movie, you should be able to follow the fight a little bit more easily on who's winning and who's losing. In fact, when I was training with the LA folks, I would actually ask, afterwards, in the audience, like, who do you think you won? And we take a tally, and 99% of the time, everyone was picking the person that actually did win. So if anything, I think at first it might be awkward to think, okay, less judges, it's going to be less accurate, but I think it's not going to be as difficult to accurately judge a fight like this as one might seem.
Cool. So I'm going to try to see if this works. And I'm going to try to bring this in. We'll see if this. And we're going to be in a little picture-in-picture. I think everybody can see that.
Oh yeah,
it might not be super smooth because it is sharing from my screen, but it should be pretty good. People should be able to hear it.
We also got dressed up in our.
Now, if people can hear that, let me know.
I cannot hear it. I don't know if the other ones.
Oh, you know what? This is from the gimbal stuff.
Ooh.
This is the gimbal that had no sound. So it wasn't capturing sound. So what I will do is I will just show a short part of this, and then I'll pull up another clip that has actual sound. We'll do one from Saber Masters at that point. But you can kind of see this is the first the first element.
Could you share something from YouTube? I think we also had
Yeah,
had
I
it up
can
on
get that.
YouTube.
I can pull stuff up. So, but you can kind of see the NeoPixel blades being there. So let me do this. I can get a different video, and that will be good.
I remember when the fight was beginning and the music was playing, and then when we turned on the sabers, and you can just hear the hum over the subwoofers. I just remember having goose pimples when we started our fight. I was like, ooh, this is good. And I have to tell you, there's nothing like hearing the hum of your lightsaber over 1,000 watts.
Let me just hit play so people can kind of watch it. And just so people can kind of get an overview of this is like what the first Unity fight looked like, and why is it all two-handed? Because literally, if we took our other hand off, you could lose the you could pull out the audio cable, which we did a couple times, pull that out. So
Tony asked, can we have music? Yes, actually, we confirmed just now that we will be having music.
So I'm going to stop sharing for a sec, and then I have another video that I can load in. It's just a 30-second clip kind of in the middle of one of those rounds that I was able to find off my... Not that. No, not that. Sorry, this is just...
All good.
So that's going to upload in a second, and then we will be able to load that up. So yeah, we asked about the battle music. Can we have music? Yes, we will have music. I'll just kind of move on to the next thing while that is uploading. So the battle music, it's going to be about, I think most of the songs that you had, were they about 2 minutes?
Yeah, I had actually several songs that were 2 minutes and several songs that were 90 seconds, depending upon the format that we wanted to do. Yep. Okay. All of them bought and paid for on shockwavesound.com.
All right. So so it'll be about a 2-minute round. And then that way, when people hear the music, they know that's the end, as opposed to, yes, director will still call hold at the end of it, but that's once the music has ceased.
Right. And again, the battle music is completely optional. It's just like more of a theatrical way to run a match.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, honestly, we all know we're nerds hitting each other with glow sticks. So, why not make it as fun as we can if we're going to do this kind of, this kind of fast moving, continuous fighting. So I'm going to pull up this clip. So this clip's going to override everything.
That was a nice hit that you had at the end there.
So, so you can kind of hear everything happening there. And real nice, just straightforward, as far as like how it looks, you can see how nice it looks. I think that was like in the third round, so we were both pretty tired. That's why, like, I would say we weren't moving as much into engagement as we did previously. So
interesting, though. I mean, it still looked really good. In fact, I think sometimes slowing it down, we had probably better exchanges.
Yeah, it was a little easier for people to track. So
Tony asked, can we play Britney Spears music? JK lol. No, I don't think we can, simply because I think we'd probably get in trouble, copyright, something like that. I wish we could play the Benny Hill theme song. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, so we keep it all royalty free. If you want to play John Williams music in your meets and practice Unity, go right ahead. But we don't want to get a copyright strike or anything like that for using the music without permission. So Saberwoo asks about where's the mic tucked, if it's tucked in the palm. So basically, the concept is, do I have the saber right here?
Yeah, I got one here too.
Yeah. The Revan. So these are these are the sabers that we used, that
Thank
Vader's Vault
you. Yeah, Vader's
gave us,
Vault.
that had the Arabesque United Through Sabers on it.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah, there's a hole drilled in here that goes directly into the sound card, and the wire then ran into the input of a wireless mic pack. That wire then was wired all down the arm, through our gear and shirt and everything, and then a pack on our waist.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it didn't necessarily work in the concept of that, you had to keep your right hand on the saber at all times. It might have been my left hand, I don't know which one, but like you had to keep your hand on at all times, otherwise you were going to essentially tear the wire out, which we did a few times. So
yeah,
and then but it did allow, like, I remember we had, the first time when we powered them up, and everyone's here with music, people's minds were kind of exploding. I remember Daniel Lane specifically screaming out, "That's the way it should always be!" So it was kind of just such a fun element. But I know, like, there are probably ways you could wire it the same way in a longer saber, because the Revan's a little short and you can't necessarily fit all that in a NeoPixel. There are probably smaller wireless mics with a longer saber that you could just put into there, as long as they wouldn't break. But yeah, the problem with like Bluetooth ones is that there's that delay, so you have to use the wireless mic packs, or you get that that 1 second delay that kind of ruins the immersion. So
yep.
But yeah, that was kind of the whole plan for that, how that worked. So
it definitely felt like a proto saber, because you had the wire. We one element that you neglected to mention is that the wire actually went into this small little step down transformer, because you can't just pipe the sound output into a mic input.
Okay.
You have to actually step down the voltage a little bit, because the microphone is a lot more sensitive, whereas you're pushing out 2 watts through the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really just like a drop-in kind of replacement, where you literally could just take the speaker output from your sound card, plug it into this thing, and then just have this little pouch on the side, and it would work. But yeah, you could definitely feel it.
So let's do this. So I have that. Okay. So let's do this. Let's continue to go through, and then I'll pull up another clip that I have from Saber Masters, and then let's go through the rest of the rule set. So just people kind of, if you have questions, something that doesn't make sense, let me know. So the only things that we talked about that is different as far as music is, the music we prefer without vocals, singing or talking. We prefer not to do that.
Right.
So, if there's a royalty free, version of "Hit Me Baby One More Time," go right ahead, Tony. There's probably some knockoff version that exists out there. But the other thing is, like, the final exchange. I think what we really liked about the final exchange was that we didn't put music specifically in the final exchange, that you had all this epic music tension, and then you pulled away that kind of safety net, and then it just became like much more serious. So that was a lot of fun. Let's see. Saber was asking, did it feel odd knowing your hand was permanent on it? Not really. I think because it was in the right hand, I was okay with it, because I knew that I could at least occasionally pull off to like, lunge, but I couldn't do like some of the hand, grab the end of the pommel and kind of swing it from the pommel or something. Those moves were not really on the table with that. So
yeah, there was a little bit of slack, and I think even in the clip you saw me actually letting go with my lead and coming up. But the only reason why I could do that is because, well, it was connected there. So, and typically you're not letting go of your saber very often, and you switching hands like that, not always the best idea. It's always the exception.
Yeah, and Goose is saying with lag times improving, won't be too long before Electrum has a Bluetooth connection help at times while with clashes. We're getting there, but that is we're too reliant on that technology at this point. So
yeah,
I think
also the microphone had 100-foot range, where where Bluetooth typically doesn't have such a high
So
range.
it would be difficult to do that in a larger venue. The smaller venue was okay. So all right, so let's go here back to the rule set. So the final exchange is done. Typically that is to the first first valid strike. So you could double once or twice in that context, and then someone gets a strike in. So it kind of becomes like a unity version of just your standard saber match, in that you're trying to get the first clean exchange. And that's what's going to dictate who wins the fight without music. So that is the only kind of difference there with, like, even with battle music, the final exchange is fought without music. So moving on to valid contact points. So we say, while the standard rule set allows for a touch to count as a valid hit point, Unity does not. Hit or contact points will only be adjudicated when 1 inch of solid pressure is applied to a valid target area. I mean, that just is a way of describing, and we kind of expand on it here about, what solid contact is. So solid contact has one or more of the following characteristics. Strikes that make a percussive contact but bounce off the protective gear due to the material. Strikes that stick, the blade doesn't immediately move off the target. Strike, a significant amount of the blade makes contact with the opponent. Strikes that cause the blade to stop when it makes contact with the opponent, and that does not count as a graze. And then solid contact, rules do not dictate or imply an increase of force. That is different from light touch rules.
Yeah.
The same rules for excessive force apply. So that can still result in penalties, and you should be delivering with the same amount of force. It really does not require, because in reality, I have my blade here. Like, if I'm clean cutting like that and I get a nice travel of my blade and I make a nice contact, even if it just taps, it's still, that can count. But the intention was to eliminate some of that, just like a tippy tappy, or I'm out here at extension and it goes, just taps down and hits. So that was the intention of, with making that more solid contact. So it shouldn't mean that, that's why we kind of get away from using the term martial quality. But we talk about that in the context that it's with good technique, will be a more solid contact hit.
Right.
And that's the key thing, is to emphasize that cleaner technique if we can.
Yeah. I think, solid contact, I think, is what we arrived to. So
that's the words as it defines it in the rule set. I'm reading off the rule set. So
cool.
So anything you want to add about solid contact?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it should make it easier to tell whether something, a person made contact. If you see stuff that's like just slipping off, even if it, think like, okay, made contact, but it really didn't, disturb the travel of the arc, you can just throw that out right away. You really want something that is, something around right here, which is typically the place that you would want to deliver a cut with a sword or some sort of stick that's delivering a lot of force. And if it bounces off, I mean, that makes sense, right? You can always pull back, and we have, plastic armor on. But yeah, you just don't want to see that the stuff here, or, even the small grazes going by, those should all be thrown out.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add about, push cuts like that, or a draw sort of, is that, if you displace them, their arm or something like that, when you're pushing in, yes, that counts as solid contact. It's, so if you, thrust in, you miss completely, but then you pull the blade back out completely, in a draw cut, or in a draw cut, you can get that point. That can, as long as you don't get hit, that can certainly count, because you're properly showing that you made full contact on the on the draw cut, or same thing with the push cut. So there's like some displacement that can happen, even though I might not be like pushing with all of my might to get, to displace their head essentially, or their shoulder or something like that. I can still get a nice clean, draw of my body, to emphasize that happening. And that is an element of theatricality, but I will also say that I've gotten points not given to me in just regular tournaments that require martial quality HEMA tournaments, where if I had drawn my body, just like done the turn of my body or a more dramatic pull, essentially, it would have counted.
Right.
So that's just that's part of that that creating, showing that you're making solid contact.
Yeah.
So the next part is the strike types. So we talk about sweeping cuts, and this is where we probably want to talk a little bit more in detail about, because we have had a lot of questions come in about this. So sweeping cuts, a long distance movement that cut through an estimation of a 45-degree arc, or complete movement that begins in one quadrant and that moves to another quadrant. Now that's a lot of words. I'm going to put up the PDF here, and then you can kind of expand on it.
Yeah. So I think just the general rule is that your blade should be traveling a bit of a distance, while it's making that cut. And if it doesn't travel a lot of distance, well, you should have begun in a place where you can deliver a cut with a bit of distance. And now notice that, that saber pulled all the way back. I mean, that's, a 45-degree angle from where he is, right? So when traveling that distance, right, that's all you have to do. It's just a 45-degree arc. So that first angle that's above the A, that first 45-degree angle, just think, okay, you just need to travel that amount. Like it could just be boom, like this, boom, boom, right? It doesn't have to be all the way behind the back, right? In fact, like that might even deliver too much force depending upon, your technique. But suffice to say, it's safe. You know that you're going to be traveling at least 45 degrees if you're, in this high guard sort of position and then coming forward. But if that's not the case, well, you could just be up here and just, deliver it down at a 45 degree. You could just sort of expect that you're going to have a little, bend in your elbow, and then you're going to come to full extension, and that's about 45 degrees. So, and just like if you're playing any sort of stickball sport, you want to have your whatever your whether it's a stick or baseball, hockey stick, lacrosse, stick, that you want to have some sort of chamber before you can deliver the strike or the throw the ball or whatever that you're trying to do, or hitting the puck. So that's the sort of general rule. Just think of it like that. What we're trying to avoid is just like people just going boop, these little very small little wrist flicks that are not traveling a whole lot. And in many HEMA tournaments, those wouldn't count. And also they're just sort of harder to see. And for theatricality, it's not so impressive. You want to see something that looks like you're from the movies, Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
So, and then, we'll go on to the extended thrust, a thrust that begins with an arm extension, or is accomplished by first extending the arm and then lunging or stepping forward, and hits with the tip of the blade and not the sides. Only valid target areas may be thrusted per the standard rule set. So same thing, stomach, leg, upper leg, thigh area is off target, throat is off target, spine is off target, back of head is off target. All those things happen. So but you can thrust to the arm, you can thrust to the, thrust to the head, thrust to the chest. So you have all those options. And the difference with the thrust, how I would explain it, because how we originally did it was a little more dramatic, and it actually was probably a little more dangerous, in that we had to completely wind up and chamber the thrust completely and extend it. So I had to like pull back essentially and hit for it to count as a thrust, and that it didn't necessarily add as much cinematic element as we wanted, and then added that extra danger because the thrust was traveling that much more distance. There might be more force behind it. So, the main thing to think about as far as, I was explaining to this someone yesterday about this, or 2 days ago maybe, is that you want to make sure we're not getting, again, there's just those wrist, those like foil tips, with the wrist, where they just get a quick flick of the wrist and that's their thrust. We want to make sure that there's travel of the elbow. So, as long as you're in a guard and you're extending and there's a step of some sort with that, not that you can't stay put, be in guard and then extend and thrust, you can, but the intention is that there is some step or lunge associated, whether that's a lunge forward, a reverse lunge, a step to the side. A step is a step. We're not requiring you to only lunge forward for a thrust to count.
Yeah, I think so. I think the intention is that a person couldn't just kind of leave their blade out there and a person kind of just accidentally hit themselves with it. That one, there was some intentionality behind the thrust. So if you thrust, which is, you're coming from here and you're extending your arm, by the time that your full extension, the blade should be hitting the person. Now, if you go to full extension, the blade isn't hitting the person, right? Then you want to step into it, right? And that then would count, right? And that's what you see in normal fencing. They start in a guard and they go into an extension for their thrust. And a lot of judges won't count that thrust in foil as clean unless there was an extension with the arm. And if it wasn't that arm that was that extension causing the point, then they would want to see some movement on the fighter. So a very typical sort of thing. But I think what it does too is that you do have this more theatricality. There's a lot more movement involved, and it should make it a little bit easier for the judges to tell, like, okay, well, yeah, it was a thrust, but they were just standing there, so we're not going to count it.
Yeah, and I had there were some questions about being able to how you call that. Does a multiple thrusts in a lunge count? And I basically kind of explained, if you're at extension and you need to then try to hit again, you're gonna have to either pull back, because at that point, if it's not in the same phrase of the attack, essentially in that same split second, like if you lunge and miss just short and you gather lunge, which is a way of just gaining a little bit of distance to get to, it is a second lunge. That's fine, because that's technically like within, half a second of you making that first lunge. If you did that 2 seconds later, you're at full extension the whole time. No, that's not going to count. It's just that, it needs to be in that same phrase that you're getting that extension occurring. If you need to, if you were lunging and then you had to cut, you can certainly cut from there, because any cut you make from a lunge, other than just, you can't just drop your wrist suddenly. If you, any cut you make, like, so if you just come around and hit to the side, of course that's going to count, because you've traveled a 45-degree arc at that point.
Yeah.
So like, it's really to avoid that. I'm going to work at the longest distance possible and play the distance game. Not that there isn't a game, not that distance isn't part of this game, but it's not like the only element. It's not just Reach's life. There is a timing. There is a, there is a timing. There is a defensive aspect to this fight.
Yeah. And that definitely goes into probably some of the next points. I mean, if you can be at an extension and run around and hit the person, like, hey, kudos to you, but chances are that's not going to work out for you for very long.
Yeah.
It will be very easy for the person to just knock the blade away, or just kind of step off to the side and deliver some sort of counterattack. Yeah, so if you're at extension and the first one doesn't work, and then you double up and do it again, and hey, cool, that's fine. It still follows that same idea that, hey, you're at an extension and you did a lunge, or some sort of movement towards the target. Totally fine.
Yeah. So I'll note that the silhouette is actually me from the Saber Masters tournament. So
if you couldn't tell by the kilt.
Yeah. So just so you're aware, I think actually the clip I have is probably when I do that, most likely. So let's see. Let's go scroll down here. So now I'm going to talk about the next aspect of that. So we've talked about what a valid strike is. Now we can talk about the mandatory disengagement, which is another aspect to scoring a point. Making the hit is not necessarily the end of the exchange, and you get that point. So mandatory disengagement occurs after a fighter has attempted a solid contact to a valid target area. Once the attempt lands a striking valid point, the opponent the fighter must attempt to disengage and retreat before their opponent can land an afterblow within 1 second. So if people don't, let's talk about an afterblow real quick, just so people understand the intention of an afterblow. So obviously a double, we hit at the same time or within like like that kind of thing. But if the hits land, it's that is approximately the timing of an afterblow. So I hit on one side, and then their hit is coming in right after that, or already in motion as I'm coming in, even though I might have hit first. That's an afterblow, and that will invalidate the entire exchange. So so like I said, if the opponent scores a valid afterblow to a scoreable valid area, the fighter may try again to make a valid strike. So what that means is that if I make a shot, I hit Alain hits me in an afterblow, and then I can quickly follow up with another hit, that I could still technically score in that exchange. But anything after that, so if I, other than another afterblow, will invalidate that exchange. So that's where you'll hear the director call out double. Even though I know it's not technically a double, we just call it a double, so it's easier to say, and you don't have to say simultaneous or afterblow. It's a lot of words. So double is a very easy thing to hear. So the director calls that out, invalidates the exchange. No points can be awarded. So as it says, during a mandatory disengagement, any subsequent touches, valid or invalid, cannot award points unless it is an afterblow. So that's the key thing, is that like the only thing that you can do is if you are struck and you are ready to hit in an afterblow, that's what's going to save you from losing a point in that exchange. So
yeah, I think it bears to sort of maybe hit on that. That what does it mean for the afterblow? And earlier you said the blade has to be moving beforehand. I think that's probably the most important thing, especially for judges, is to understand, was their blade traveling? Were they going for an attack while the other person landed their shot? If that's not the case, then anything that happens can be thrown out, right? And in fact, if one person gets hit, the other person wasn't moving, but after they got hit, they hit the other person, that could even be counted as a foul, as a kind of a revenge blow, right? We don't want to allow that kind of behavior. That's very unsportsmanlike. So for any person who's thinking like, okay, I'm going to kind of metagame this, and anytime a person hits me, I just want to really quickly try to hit them back, be very, very careful that you are not, attempting a blow after you've already been hit, because you're going to get picked up on pretty quickly, and you're going to be called out, and you might, receive a card for it if you do it multiple times. And certainly, just because you did hit them afterwards doesn't mean that the other person's score or his point is automatically thrown out. It's only if your blade was moving prior to you getting hit and you hitting them, would it be discarded. And the other thing, this is very important too. If let's say you do, like what you're saying, you do deliver a valid hit, and then someone invalidates it with a good timed afterblow or simultaneous, you still have one more moment to try to hit them again, right? I think that was probably one of the biggest changes that has been introduced. But I see the value of that, and that it definitely makes the exchange a little bit longer, and not just like, hey, if there's just something that happens, you just back off, right? That you can have like a attack, parry, riposte kind of situation happen more often. And it should allow for the judges also to, if they didn't catch the initial strike, that hit, then they can count and look at the second strike that hit. So it does give judges maybe a little bit more time to analyze that engagement and figure out who won. So definitely don't if you know. I think if anything, what it should train you to do is that, hey, don't just go for the attack. For one, go for the attack and make sure that you can defend yourself well. And if you can't defend yourself, definitely think of what is the follow-up to that that you could do. And so don't just attack and kind of freeze, sort of waiting for the judge to call it and tell you to disengage. You need to have your own sort of situational awareness of your opponent and what they're doing, so that you can get in and get out and not get hit, or perhaps have a good riposte.
And that's why that second and third intention is so important. If you get into this back and forth, I hit you, right? You hit me. I try to strike back, and I make the contact, and then I block you on the way out. But I still need to step out. That's the key thing. Is that disengagement? Yes. You must step out of distance in order to tabulate the point.
Yeah.
If we just start just like back and forth, and we're ignoring it, and maybe I got a point in there, or Alan got a point in there, the director's going to call a break, and 9 times out of 10 that's not going to be called.
Yeah.
And there were definitely situations in that. So adding the extra the ability to score if you were the first one to land kind of was already playing into the habits that we were already seeing in the combat. Because I don't 100% know all the time that a strike is going to hit me in an afterglow. Sometimes I defend it, sometimes I might miss, sometimes I might not feel it. It hits a more well padded area, and so I'm going to put that in there just in case. Or maybe I don't even know my first strike hit.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell. It got obscured. All those things can happen where in a fight you never know. So that's why you give yourself that opportunity to work that second intention. And and Christian is saying about second intentions and push guts are key. And I Saberwoo was saying we kind of blew his mind with the mandatory disengagement kind of the way that works. So
yeah, it's great for several reasons. One, I think it works well in terms of being defensive. I mean, it's natural for me. Like, I'm going through attack, and whether I make it or not, I'm thinking about, okay, is there a second intention? Can I do a second offensive action? If I can't, I'm out of there, right? You don't want to be in there any longer than you need to. So disengaging is always a good thing to think about in terms of not getting hit. Secondly, it's good sportsmanship, right? If a person gets hit, don't just keep wailing on them, right? And expecting that, oh, I'm only going to stop when the judge tells me to stop, right? We're all here, it's a privilege and to be able to fight, amongst each other. It's not every day that people are willingly, allowing each other to get hit by other people. So we should honor that and respect that. And I think the disengagement sort of like, yeah, hey, give that moment for people to, kind of recoup for a second and, get back at it. And definitely also it's better for the judges so that they can have these sort of moments where they can kind of figure things out and make a decision, and not just like constantly like, okay, did I get it? They have like a moment too to figure things out. Yeah, this is not boxing. When we say continuous fighting, it's not boxing, and there is a pace to it. There's a coming together, and kind of like that coming together. Even in Filipino martial arts, which also in Eskrima, they have continuous fighting rules. They still even have a timer, so that when the engagement begins, they do have to have a mandatory disengagement after a set amount of time, for that reason. So yeah, the mandatory disengagement, I think, as far as the fighters will find, it's just going to make it one, you're going to be safer. not just for yourself, but for opponent. It's going to lead to better sportsmanship, a better sort of like, I think, awareness of oneself and, what's happening, not just kind of, I'm just going to attack. And it's going to make the fight look a lot cleaner too. It's going to be easier to judge. So just all around, a good discipline to have, a good rule to have.
So, so yeah, just, so we're clear about that. So to complete a mandatory disengagement, you have to complete one of the things: move so they're not in immediate striking distance. If you're at full extension, you cannot land a touch. 1 to 3 seconds could be resumed a reasonable amount of time before needing to disengage. So if people are just hitting each other back and forth, they will call a break. They'll throw a saber in between you and call a break. Fighters not completing a mandatory disengagement can be in breach of contact or using excessive force. And if you're purposely, just trying to do those revenge shots to hit someone on the way out, after they clearly landed a clean shot on you, you can be, in breach of conduct for that as well.
Yeah.
So, and then the next part is about scoring points. So when the fighters engage in a valid strike, a point will only be awarded to the fighter who lands a solid contact to a valid target and it is delivered without their opponent simultaneously landing before the fighter can retreat. Fighters can attempt a valid strike at medium to long distance if they can recover within a reasonable amount of time to counter their opponent. If not, a reset should be called. So, I mean, we've kind of explained that. So, that you can only score 1 point in an exchange and everything. So, but here's the next part. The valid touch should be delivered by the fighter without getting hit. Simultaneous touches are not awarded. Simultaneous does not mean the touches land at the same time. It means both fighters' blades are in motion at the same time when the attack's landed. So that's where that you're going to hear. If you hear double, if you treat it like a break, because you're not going to score anything in that exchange. So don't waste your energy on that. So a valid touch delivered by a fighter is awarded during a simultaneous invalid touch by the other fighter. So if you get thrust to the belly when you hit someone in the head, you're going to get that point. So that same kind of rule set as in the standard rules where there is an invalid strike at the same time, the valid strike could award the point. It's not always going to happen because sometimes it's hard to see, especially in that fast-moving environment, but that's just something to keep in mind. Fighters will continuously engage until they land a valid strike and retreat before a simultaneous blow is landed. So yeah, if you're hitting back and forth and there's defense going on, the exchange could last a long time if everybody's defending themselves. So it doesn't have to be 1 to 3 seconds. It's just that's what it kind of averages out to.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed when practicing this is that a lot of what these rules are almost like the rules that you would do if you were just fighting someone, and it was just you and them. You had no judges, right? I don't know if you just fought like casually with people, but a lot of times it's like you're fighting, someone gets a good hit and you kind of reset, you kind of just back off and then you kind of come back to it. It's almost like what we kind of do naturally, right? Rarely, I think we just keep pummeling each other with the sabers. I haven't seen a whole lot of TSL members do that, or at least TSL members who stuck around for a while. So just think about that. Just like, okay, got the person, they got me, right? A lot of times, when fighting, if a person delivers a clean blow and they don't immediately retreat, I'm just retreating because I just want to do the reset so I can get back. Every second that you're not backing up and resetting is a second loss from the timer where you could then be making up that point difference. So don't just think like, oh, I got hit, I gotta keep chasing the person or keep going for it. No, reset. Try to reset really quickly so you can just jump back in there.
So I'm just going to quickly go through these things because we're kind of I don't want to get too long, and I do want to show people other clips. So valid touch, we've talked about, what a valid touch is, what's an invalid, and all those things. And either way, if there's simultaneous valid touches or not, or something like that, or you need to, if you both make contact, the smart move is to move out. Obviously, you can make a second intention or try to defend yourself as you're moving out because you don't know if there was a valid touch. But backing up is the right strategy when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So,
you may, if there was like, okay, simultaneous hit, right? Immediately back off. You might want to, if a person tries to go for something, I mean, for one, it's really risky. You might get called for it, or a person might just invalidate it right away. It's just, stay on the safer side and just like, hey, just back off and do it again. It's probably the quickest way to make sure that things are getting counted right.
And you can see in the afterblow, one thing we kind of called it out as far as revenge strikes, but the opposing fighter's blade must already be in motion, not to exceed a 90-degree arc to deliver an afterblow. Granted, like what that really means is like if I'm going to sit in a high guard and wait for that strike to come in against me, and then I'm just going to wail on them as soon as that happens. Now, granted, if I'm moving around my head as I'm ready to come in, or I'm switching from 1 to 2, and that becomes a bigger strike, obviously that's allowed as long as I'm already in motion and I'm moving. The key thing is to keep moving in this rule set, and not try to just stay put and just pick your strike. Obviously, you can do that to a degree to try to get the first strike, but that should not be the methodology utilized when trying to get an afterblow in.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. You can add to that, and I'll just move down.
Yeah, we just got a question. Would blade checks, touching tips be a good way to disengage? Certainly. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're backing up, that you can push the person's blade away while backing up. You know, definitely you can't palm anything, obviously, or touch the person's body, but pushing off the blades and then backing off into distance, yeah, sure. So I think everyone kind of knows what it means to be in distance or out of distance. If I can be like this and touch the person, right? Yeah, and I mean touch the person, meaning that they're at full extension as well. So just imagine two people at full extension. Can you hit the other person in the hand? If the answer is yes, you're not quite out of distance. So if I'm sort of in a guard position, what I'm kind of looking for is if I'm touching the person's blade, that I'm somewhere around here, right? Anything closer to that, right? I'm maybe not quite out of distance, but here it's pretty good. Just as if you were about to re-engage with someone.
If you want a term, sometimes that is called seeking distance.
Yeah.
It is referred to as seeking distance because you're seeking an attack. So the next step would then be the step in which you are in distance to attack. So as
I like that. I never heard that before. That's cool.
It's a Stephen. Well, I mean, I don't know where he got it from, but Stephen Fick,
probably in an old manuscript.
But like, because he talks about it a lot in Rapier. That's the you're seeking. So that's typically like foible to foible kind of in Rapier, and then there's lunging distance. So that I can from that distance I can safely lunge. And the key thing also is that seeking and lunging distance are different for each person. So your lunging distance is different from mine. But seeking distance is approximately foible to foible.
Right.
The ends of the blade, right here. Making cross contact, and keep in mind, when we do a very quick break in TSL, sometimes we'll have the fighters not fully reset, and they will be that close, so that does sometimes happen if we just need to quickly reset or hold an exchange. So, sometimes it's been called, like we say, the ground is here, is what you might hear from some of the older TSL videos. So ring marshal can suspend the clock if there's safety issues, and then or when the duration expires, so that they can still call safety holds at any time. Same thing with like equipment failure and stuff like that. So that we would halt the music where it was, just pause it where it's at. Then the music would continue immediately, and then you would fight again once that is resolved. Should it not be like a medical thing? So the same rules apply in relation to that. We call a hold. They address the issue. Once the issue is addressed, the fight can go. A reset is when we say, you're not disengaging, or if there's a ring out. So that's just, creating that distance, that disengagement distance, and then bringing him back in. So, let's see. I think that's it. because there's basically, the judging are determining whether there's a score happening, and they tally their valid points. So there can be discrepancies, and then it's kind of averaged from that point. And then the marshal, the ring director, can call out a simultaneous valid touch or an invalid touch. So that would just throw out any point that happened in that exchange. So yeah, and obviously that doesn't mean that a line judge can't just, if a marshal doesn't call it, you can do that. So they, yeah, winning scenario, they confer, they silently keep track of their scores, 3-2, and the other one has 2-3, and then say they're tied at that point, because that would be a tie. Sudden death round is called, but that's after 2 rounds. So we're talking 2 2-minute rounds with the break in between. So you have to win both rounds essentially in order to move on, or you're going to go to sudden death.
Right.
So there's asking about flying squirrels being chivalrous. Jesse's only fought a little bit in Unity. He fought a demo with you at one of our Clockwork tournaments.
That's right.
And he said, yeah. So,
and I don't remember if he tried the flying squirrel on me or not.
I don't think he did. I think he wanted to keep it under control.
Yeah.
And then Douglas also was actually one of our line judges at the Saber Masters tournament.
Hey, Douglas.
Says many human groups will tap tips to acknowledge they're both ready to fight just after the director marshal starts the fight. So that's, by the way, I would consider a flying squirrel in a Unity fight. I would consider that excessive force, because you're also, it's not first touch. So if you're going to say like that dive, yeah, it's not going to be safe because you're not protecting your body, because I can clearly just hit you, which is literally what happened in the original dive that Jesse did. He got hit. It's just under the first touch rule set that is okay. So yeah, but Doug talking about how, that's the norm, just respecting each other and everything. So
yes.
Is it possible to break, to score through a block or parry? If you displace their blade enough to make that solid contact. So if you hit and then just like you kind of tap, no, because the blade took the majority of that. If we're talking lightsaber rules, it technically would stick at that point, and would have never made contact. So a blade wrap is not likely to score unless it has that significant solid contact. So yes, you can. I know even when in our first fight, like you blew through my guard a couple times and it was valid, and I blew through your guard a couple times and it was valid. So it certainly can happen, but it's got to be like one of those things where like I block here and you come down and like literally my guard collapses. If it holds and it blade wraps and taps me on the head, no, that's going to be no point. So
yeah, I think it's not like in foil fencing where, hey, if I just make contact with the other person's blade, it's considered that they've been parried, right? They, just like I was saying, if person can make solid contact, no matter where the other person's blade is in relation to it, if it makes contact, it makes contact. And so yeah, you could definitely, if a person blocks you, can you still make a valid score? Yeah, sure. Yeah, just so you have to follow those other rules of making solid contact, have that traveling distance. But you realize that if your blade gets stopped and then you just sort of try to keep going, you're at risk then of not conforming to those rules. You might not be actually doing a 45-degree angle. You might not actually be at full extension or extending as you were before. So just one of those things. But yeah, I mean, I've blown through parries. I've also parried and attacked at the same time, right? There's plenty of ways to, be offensive and defensive at the same time.
So let's see if I can get this, if this will work. And let's see if we got, I don't know if this has sound or not, but we'll find out. Share screen. Let's try it out. I think this is the same clip, or this is the cut together version, but I don't know that there's any audio with it. That's the one you sent to me.
It should have audio.
Oh, well, I don't know why it's not. Let's see.
There we go. I can hear it. Yeah, we just see it.
I'm just gonna go back real quick.
Yeah, we can't see it. We just hear it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why is that not working? Oh, I'm dumb. Sorry. Thank you. I didn't hear that.
No problem.
No, I have to turn screen sharing on and then turn on the video source.
There we go.
Otherwise, it won't let me do it. So here we go. I'm sorry about that. Now you take two.
So this is the epic music going. And I was like, hey, turn it up, man. Turn it up. This is our first time. Can you hear that sound? Yeah, that was the actual sound of our speakers. It's not loud. Gave the credit to Daniel Lane for that guy yelling.
For the yelling guy. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like, you can kind of see, that's the idealized version of it. Obviously we were probably both being a little more being dramatic about it. I mean, it wasn't for we weren't fighting in a tournament. It was an exhibition fight, so there wasn't any real stakes to winning or losing. I mean, other than pride. So, and I won. So that's,
Yeah. Yes, you did.
It's all
yes,
good.
You did.
It's all good.
That face thrust towards the end, like that one's like, bam, just got me. And then immediately afterwards, you got that nice cut on my hand. You just pulled out right there towards the end there.
So I'm gonna pull up the other one. It's a fight of me from against Aziz Kugler, who's a longsword fighter. He was one of our HEMA practitioners that came in. So let me pull that up right now.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a blast.
So this is from the Saber Masters, and it'll have it up in a sec. Hang on. Okay, here we go. fast forward a little bit because we had whole like entrances and everything like that. And we had smoke, as you can see.
Lots of smoke.
But I just wanted to get to the actual fighting, and there's Alain in his fanciness.
Yep. Had some Kylo Ren.
Why did it slow down? Hang on, what did it do? Oh, you know why? This whole fight was fought at slow mo. That they recorded.
There's that little thing in the middle there. Can you?
Oh, yes.
Can you decrease it? Like bring that over. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, okay. I don't know why that is. All right, so let's fast forward here.
Oh, yeah, we had 2 circles going on.
Blade clashes.
Oh, I'm sorry. We couldn't hear you when you were making some of the commentary.
Oh, I wasn't commenting that much.
Oh, okay. What were you saying towards the end?
What I was saying was just the
yeah, nice work.
Some of the points where like you see I'm doing blade contact. Like Aziz is like 3 times my size, and you know, in a longsword fight, he's gonna just take me to just completely destroy me. But with that little bit of, I was just trying to work on my confidence as far as having the core to like engage with somebody at that time, that's much larger than me. So I actually have found that at least with a fighting two-handed versus two-handed, you do have more blade clashes, and not even necessarily because you're hitting harder, but because you are trying to, at times you are trying to defend as well. So with that defense comes blade clashes. So you
and
get
leverage.
You get those clashes where you have to work leverage and step and do all the different things. So that's an interesting aspect to the rule set. So
yeah, going back to a point, like if that was sort of asked earlier about whether like, oh hey, there's some blocks, like can I still attack? Like there's been many situations where I blocked something or someone else blocked something. So let's say I went through an attack, they blocked me, right? I might try to then pop them, right, afterwards on the hand by adjusting my blade. Now this blade is still traveling 45 degrees, so it stopped. But now you have the leverage game where now you're trying to push that person and then make contact. Now you still need to make proper contact, but just because your blade stopped, do you have to disengage from this point and go for another attack? No, a lot of times it's only when the blades do engage that true sword play happens, as some of the masters, the German masters might say. So, just because it stopped doesn't mean it's necessarily over, but you still need to find, that valid angle, that valid contact, which I saw that you do. Like sometimes things stopped and you still were able to just, wrench it across and get them on the arm, or get them in the head,
Yep.
and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny watching it because I look at like things that I do there, and I'm just like, man, I don't like what I'm doing there. I don't like what I'm doing there. So, don't think that's going to give anyone much of a leg up on me. So,
it was also a while ago. So
yeah, that was May of 2019. So we have 3 years of, whether that means we're slower or, more tired or we have more skill. That'll be for the fighters to find out.
Definitely more experience.
So yeah, as far as the tournament on Sunday, it's running about 2 hours. It's going to run quick. It's a single elimination, 16 fighters. So, we don't have that many fights. We are, it's a kind of an experimental, fight, a tournament in that it is a newer, something we're bringing there for the first time, as a tournament. And, there are about 4 fighters who have fought, in under that rule set previously. It's me, you, Ewok, and from SoCal, and Aaron Riley, and that's it. So, and they both fought in Saber Masters, and then us. So everybody else, this is their first time in a regulated tournament or match, under the Unity rule set. So it'll be very interesting to see how people have read the rules and interpret them. Obviously, there's always room for interpretation of where you think the meta is, in that rule set. So like, I know there was comment I remember seeing a few months ago about like, oh, like one-handed can't win. It's more of a two-handed rule set, and it's not true at all. The Saber Masters tournament was won by a one-handed fighter. Terry was the winner of that tournament, and he was the first person to. And he was the one-handed fighter. He wasn't the only one in that tournament, but he was the one that went the farthest. Yeah. So, Charlie came in second, Ryan came in third, I came in fourth, and then the next 3 were primarily fighting two-handed.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple who came in like the quarters and stuff like that had some one-handed skill as well. So it just it depends. It depends on how you adapt it, and everything. And I would say yes, with a two-handed, it probably does lend itself because you want to get those quick strikes, the quick blocks. But if you got the arm strength to do solely one-handed, and you can still block, or you can strike and you get hit with an afterblow and have enough to, get in without actually without having to wind up to Chicago, good on you. I mean, that's, there's definite ways you can do it without, fight one-handed. I mean, I could fight probably in a rapier style and, mix that with a little bit of side sword, and I'd be okay. I don't think you can, I don't know that you can win solely with just thrusting. I think it needs to be a combination of thrust and cuts if you're going to do a one-handed style. So,
yeah. Just because, hey, if you have the blade out there, it's just a matter of time before someone just hits it down and, tries to go for something. So
unless you have amazing distance and the ability to close distance quickly, like if you can do like one-handed, like the quick casting moves and get in distance and then get out of distance, then maybe you could do that. But that's
exactly actually what Terry had done at the time. I remember he was really in and out. He was in and out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's just playing that distance game, against it. So it's certainly possible. I would argue that it's not. It requires a specific type of skill with that. So it's if you're not trained for that, I wouldn't try it. Not to say do no one-handed, because you even saw in the fight that I showed of me, I did two and one-handed. I was mixing it in. Sometimes like you get a two-handed, and then guess what? The next best option is to swing it around with one hand, take a hand off and hit. So that's
lunge,
that's certainly something that can happen. So, so I'm going to leave it open to, is there any other questions about the rule set that people have, something people want clarified? Because I think that's all the clips. We've been through the rule set. We know about the tournament on Sunday. We're going to be live streaming that tournament as well. I don't know that there's anything else to go over unless there's something you want to add, Alan, while we wait for if there's any other questions.
I think if there is just one thing that anyone should focus on is that, the first rule of, Zombieland, cardio, right? Like, have good cardio going into it. It's going to make it a lot easier. The continuous fighting, definitely is harder, right? You know, you don't have these more longer breaks in between engagements as you would with the stop-start rules. And fights can go on for 2 minutes, and depending upon the pace of the tournament, you could have stuff going back to back. You know, certainly there's probably not going to be a huge break between the quarterfinals and the semifinals. So if you're in that bracket, I mean, you're probably going to be back to back. So have good cardio. You know, remember to breathe. I think also just pacing yourself in the fight. I see a lot of people think, you know, going into it, it's like, you know, I just have to kind of go in super aggressive. And honestly, no, I feel like this lends itself to better pacing. I think it's going to teach you a lot of things about pacing and having, you know, good timing, good form, good defense. What what I really was hoping that this rule set would do was to encourage people to perhaps, you know, push themselves a little bit um, to a certain, you know, degree to make them better fighters. So I hope it does to whomever's participating or just practicing it.
Well, and the one thing I would add, I mean, I know it was an observation we had in relation to Saber Masters going into TSL4. You know, because I mean, we kind of glossed over it, but we did, you know, once or twice a week, we were meeting up to test out aspects of it, trying different type of equipment and stuff like that, just different blades and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
to try to test this out and see what would work, what shouldn't work, you know, like what was going to make it an effective rule set. So we were fighting in that, you know, for at least 2-3 hours, you know,
Once
twice
a
a week.
week.
Yeah, once or
Mm-hmm.
twice a week. So, um, and I know you had commented at TSL4 that you felt that it informed your under the standard rule set that you had become a more effective fighter into that rule set just from fighting into the Unity rule set, not just from a cardio perspective, but just from like just knowing how to work a second intention and work your defense and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna humble brag us a little bit, but you know we came in first and second that year,
Yeah.
and we spent all that time, you know, probably more time than anyone else fighting under that rule set that year. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna argue that it is a good training tool as well. So if you look at it and you say, man, I can never get the cardio to like fight in a tournament and go the distance with that, you do it in sparring, as we already explained. You already do it. All you do is just modify a couple little things, and you can do that. And you go for 30 seconds. You don't have to go for 2 minutes. You don't have to, you know, do that. But you will. There's a lot to learn from that way of fighting that will inform other aspects. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's a form of cross training in a way. So,
Yeah.
and then that's almost always gonna be beneficial. So,
Right.
so the only questions that or comments that came in, we had inside forearm grazes are no good for striker points. If it's a graze, no. So where's my arm? You know, if it just goes like that, no. But if it strikes it and it displaces my arm, yeah, that could count. You know, obviously the travel. This includes if it gets traveled. But if it's just grazing my arm, no. But it's going to have to displace or make a good solid contact.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I know those grazes do happen from time to time. So, and then Douglas was saying, as a primarily one-handed fighter, I prefer the style that comes from Unity rule set. The static, letting your opponent run into your blade with their arm, is just not very visibly cool. So,
True.
yeah,
Maybe some poetic justice there, but you know, I don't think as a fighter I feel good when, you know, my opponent sort of gives the point to me. And yeah, Douglas, he's an amazing fighter. We trained with him quite a bit in Northern California. Hopefully, Douglas, I get to see you at CombatCon. But yeah, if there's any person who could probably vouch for the viability of using one hand, it's going to be Douglas.
and I'm going to see him on Sunday, so I'm heading up to Sacramento for
Cool.
some training on that. So, uh,
Yeah, his workouts, man. Got to work those works.
yeah, I mean that's a good way to do it. If the first one doesn't go through, you can always, you know, get that second intention if you can do
Yeah.
it. It's
Zornhau Ort too.
I mean, you guys can talk whatever German. It all sucks because, you know, Italian. But no, it's all good. I don't study under German, so people use all these terms and try to be cool. But I have the most German last name, so
yeah, it's a pretty standard sort of thing. Basically, it's just you block and then you kind of go for the head thrust.
No, I know what it is.
Okay.
I'm just mocking, because I have the most German last name, so
True. Yeah, you should know it better than anyone.
I should, but Stephen Fick and Damrich, we study Italian, so it's Fiore and Vadi, and that's the longsword styles. So.
Gotcha. I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
It's pretty much all Italian, with only a couple exceptions. Like there's when you get to rapier and dagger, there's mostly rapier and dagger. He does one of the only people that does Sweatenham, which is English. Like there's really only a few people in the world that do Sweatenham. So very different style. But I digress. But I think that's going to wrap things up. If I don't see any other questions coming in, just kind of comments about Zwerches. So,
yeah, and if you want to learn, just let me know, and I can totally hit you in the face a little bit over at CombatCon.
If we're talking about Zwerches, I'll say look up Martin Fabian's video of I think he says it's called the Zwerch copter, and it's as many Zwerches he can do against a target in 60 seconds, and he is a specimen as far as his speed, so and technique with it too. So, you want a training tool. That's a training tool you can try. Yeah. But if you want to be intimidated by one of the best, I mean, he's one of the best fighters in the world at this point. I think he's top 10. So. But
yeah, you can just look like Anakin, on Mustafar, just with Obi-Wan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally viable.
So, yeah, this is going to wrap it up. I think we are going to have one more Road to CombatCon, and that's going to be with Clint Darby talking about patches. And I think that's going to wrap it up. I think you might see me go live once or twice just to do a basic Q&A, and the only reason I'm doing that basic Q&A is to test out the gear and the media setup. So I'm going to try things. There could be technical issues and stuff like that, but I'm just going to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions. I can talk, it's not a Road to CombatCon, but it sort of is, because I'm going to be testing out the setup. So the live stream goes off with as least problems as possible. If you're not familiar with what we do on that live stream, and what we're attempting this year is pretty much the same thing, but slightly different. But essentially, we have the ability. We're going to have every ring covered, just like we did last year. So there will be a camera in every ring, and we have the ability to record every input. So what we're able to do then is take ring 1, which is say on camera 1, and we can just upload that ring, and we'll just upload the file. You can tell us when you can put your bookmarks in on YouTube of when the fights are, and then that's it. Nice and easy. And we'll have that for all 3 rings. Obviously posted after the tournament, so I'm not going to post it the day of, and then the next day someone can look at their fights. So, but yes, that is at the Flamingo in Las Vegas. So. But we'll have try to have everything covered, almost every fight recorded if possible, barring unforeseen technical errors or, internet going out. We can actually still record locally too. So, we're trying a couple different things. Should be able to do that. We should be able to have chat overlay, and potentially, at least for the finals, some scoreboard as well.
Awesome.
So all right, I'm going to sign off. And Alan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, David, as always. And thank you, everyone, for chiming in. Yep, looking forward to crossing blades with you two, Douglas. And yes, you two are all awesome out there. Thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, between now and CombatCon, feel free to reach out to myself. Feel free to reach out to David anytime if you just want to chat. Talk about training regimens or just, whatever, feel free. I'm totally open.
All right. Thanks
everyone.
Again. United through Sabres.